I should tell you my own little healing journey that I had recently because I think it would interest you. So, I have had a little bit of toe fungus on my left big toe and the third toe for about 12 years, 10 to 12 years. And I have tried everything to get rid of it. And recently, about 4 weeks ago, I was sitting in a meditation and a healing meditation. And I felt this charge of energy flow through my body and go all the way out to the tips of my fingers. And in the particular areas where I've had, and toes, where I've had those, I felt particular tingling. And on one of the toes, the littler toe, that fungus is completely gone. And on the big toe, it's about halfway gone.
I think you
All
got a
I
frequency upgrade. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Julie Ryan Show. It's where we blend spirituality and practicality to help you live a life of purpose and joy. We have Caroline Allen back with us on the show today. I find Caroline's story and mission fascinating. When Western medicine failed her, she gave up a successful corporate career and explored new ways to heal herself. That led her to develop products to help the average person enhance their health. You're going to want to take notes on this one because you're going to learn a lot of useful information that can enhance your and your family's lives. Please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with your family and friends. Now let's go chat with Caroline. Caroline, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to continue our conversation about your research and your clients' testimonials about the beam minerals. I'm a huge fan, as you know. I'm a fangirl of yours and of your products. And I just want to get this information out to everybody that's going to watch and listen to this show and how all of these different products that you've come up with can help us.
That's awesome. Julie, thank you so much for having me. I'm always looking for places where I can talk about minerals because that's all I love to talk about. And it's great to see you as well.
No, my pleasure. All right, minerals. What's up with the minerals? We all take vitamins and minerals, and we think we're doing what we need to do. But what I've learned from you is that we're all deficient in most minerals, from what I understand. So please talk a little bit about that and tell us why. Why are we deficient?
Yeah, there's lots of kind of stuff out there in the public saying, our food is less nutrient dense than it used to be. But I really like to explain it because when people have a picture and a story, then they can begin to understand something and actually retain the info. So what I like to do is have people look around them, like in your room, look around, look at your body. Every single structural element in the world is minerals. If you took all of the water out of your body, you'd be a little pile of minerals. Now, if you look at plants, whether it's a small little pea shoot or a great huge redwood tree, all of the structure in that plant is minerals. So when a plant grows in the soil, what happens is to create its structure, it uses the minerals in the soil to create its own structure. It's the same thing that happens in you. Let's say you're pregnant and you're growing a baby. All of the structure of that fetus is minerals that come from your body, from what you've ingested. And the same with muscle growth or anything. It's all the structural elements are minerals. So the challenge that we have is that in nature, when a plant grows, it sucks those minerals out of the soil to create its own structure. At some point, it dies, and then it decomposes, and all of its mineral content goes back into the soil. That's how natural ecosystems work. Of course, us in our infinite wisdom, we have been cultivating for, in some places, thousands of years, growing food in that same soil and taking the food away from where it was grown and eating it some other location, and then the soil itself never gets the minerals replenished back into it. Now, in the same way that it's a challenge to get minerals back into your body in a way that you can actually utilize them, it's also hard to get minerals back into the soil in a way that is bioavailable to the plant. So, as a result, they say that to get the same nutrition from an apple that your grandfather ate, you would have to eat 6 or 7. I've even heard higher numbers, but I'm kind of, being cautious and saying 6 to 7 apples. Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, so the sad fact is you cannot get enough minerals from the foods you eat today. Now, exacerbating the issue is that we're all drinking bottled and filtered water, as we need to do because there are pollutants in the water. The challenge is that that water has no minerals. Now, when I was a kid, we used to drink from the hose or, we drink from streams. Of course, you shouldn't do that as well. um, but we did. And none of us got sick drinking from the streams, but, they say you should not do that. So, the problem is that kids now coming off the soccer fields or just sitting in class and they're having brain fog or they're having cognitive issues or they're having mood issues or having ADHD. And these are literally because their body does not have enough energy to do all of the things that needs to do, especially in developing bodies.
So, minerals are something that nobody knows about. We just take the capsules that have all the vitamins. I think, myself included, we're all taught that we need the vitamins, but nobody really talks about the minerals until a woman gets to be of a certain age and she's looking at osteoporosis or osteopenia before osteoporosis sets in, which, by the way, when I scan somebody as a medical intuitive, osteopenia looks to me like a divot in the bone. I'm like a human MRI. So I can see inside people's bodies with their permission. Osteopenia looks like a divot in the body. Osteoporosis looks like actual holes, a divot in the bone, I should say, for osteopenia. Osteoporosis looks like holes in the bone, and it reminds me of sea coral, the kind with the holes in it. And so I think that's really where the calcium comes in, that we're supposed to take more calcium and more magnesium if we're a perimenopausal or menopausal or postmenopausal woman. But talk about minerals is not very common in
No.
the common zeitgeist of our daily lives. Why is that? Is that a new discovery that people have just figured out that we're deficient in minerals? Is that a recent realization?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One is that, of course, doctors have never gotten any nutritional training. So, and historically, most of our knowledge about even vitamins, take a multivitamin if you're pregnant or give your kid a multivitamin, came from the doctor, the pediatrician, or the obstetrician, so, or the gynecologist or whatever, right? So now there's several things that happened. One is there was a big push. I don't know if you remember the keto diet, and everyone was doing the keto diet. And one of the things that happen when people do ketogenic dieting is that their bodies move from being carbohydrate adapted, meaning they burn sugars, to being fat adapted, they burn fat. And when they're in this transition process, they require they need more minerals and electrolytes. And so there's this huge movement of the ketogenic diet, and all these people who were already in deficiency because of the food that they're eating and the water that they're drinking suddenly experienced what they call keto flu. And the people who were in the know said, you need minerals, you need electrolytes. So this was, I feel like, the beginning inception of, first of all, part of what happened in the pandemic is people started wanting to know themselves what was happening in their body rather than just trusting the doctors who didn't seem to know. So there's, because of the internet, people are starting to question and be, I talk to doctors all the time who said one of their challenges is that their patients are more informed than they are about many of their chronic health issues because they can go out and research. So there's this thing of the keto diet and people becoming aware of minerals and electrolytes. And then there is also this depletion issue that I call it it is the health issue of our age. So, if I'm gonna give you kind of an example. Um, the scientists that I've spoken to believe that kind of average depletion deficiency level is that people have only about 40% of the minerals in their body that they need for optimal function. If you're not supplementing, if you're just eating regular old, processed food and whatever from restaurants and fast food and all that. So, because minerals are they're with minerals and amino acids, they are the cofactors that are required for almost all of the energy generation in your body. So if you take a light in your room and you just dim it down to 40%, that's how your body is operating. So your body says, well, I can't keep these bones healthy. I'm going to steal some of that calcium because I need it over here. And it's still going to, it's about like that. And let's say you have some inflammation in your gut, it's gonna be like, well, I can't really get rid of that, and some sinus problems, and maybe you're not sleeping well because your whole nervous system is amped up because it doesn't have what it needs. It's hangry. Your hair starts to fall out, your nails start to chip, you start to have night cramping. So there are a myriad of symptoms, chronic symptoms that are signs of mineral depletion and deficiency. And I, I feel, I'm out there like really, I'll talk to anybody about minerals. That's why they call me the mineral geek. But I'm really hoping to open this conversation to the public because we know recently I asked a Harvard-trained scientist to name 5 minerals that the body needs, and he couldn't. He was like, "Well, sure I can, no problem." Then he started doing he's like, wait a minute, maybe not."
Calcium, magnesium, those are the 2 that come to mind. Is
Mhm.
iron a mineral?
Yes.
Iron, eh, there's something that sounds like borax or
Boron,
boron,
yeah,
okay. Oh,
yeah.
4, let me see,
Yeah,
what am
you're
I?
good.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not like right
um,
off the top of the tongue, right?
is manganese different
Yes,
from okay, alright,
manganese is a mineral, yeah.
manganese. What are the main aren't there 5 main ones that we all need?
Well, so I never what I like to tell you is that there we have what we call the macro minerals that your body uses a lot of. The magnesium, the calcium, the potassium, the sodium, the boron. These are macro minerals. But the micronutrients are what people are really struggling with. Okay? So there's actually a term for it coined by the World Health Organization for micronutrient deficiency, and it's called the hidden hunger because that's what people feel. They feel like something's missing. You finish your meal and 30 minutes later you're opening the fridge going, maybe just I just need something. And actually your cells are telling you, yes, you did not get the nutrition that they needed from what you ate.
Mm, and that's what they talk about well, that's what they talk about with the processed food, that the brain's not registering that it's food and that it's gotten nutrients because it hasn't.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, the problem with yeah, we'll have a whole session talking about this processed fruit food issue, but there's about 17, some people say 22 macro minerals plus micronutrients, and electrolytes are also included in that list on what we think of as electrolytes. So,
So, electrolytes, I think of the athletes that are drinking Gatorade,
mhm,
and I also think about when people are sick, I've heard my whole life, get some Pedialyte
mhm.
and
Yeah,
drink it. Is that
yeah,
the same thing? What is an electrolyte, and are those I mean, I know Gatorade has a bunch of sugar in it.
yeah.
Does Pedialyte as well?
Yeah, PDLI has a lot of sugar and it's mostly salts. Um, Most of these electrolyte drinks are salty, so they're mostly sodium, and then there's potassium, and there's some magnesium. Sometimes, if they're more full spectrum, they'll have magnesium, and they'll have I'm blanking on it, but those are the big ones. Okay, basically, an electrolyte is a mineral that has a very strong electrical charge. That's what an electrolyte is. So, and your body, and most of those are macro minerals, the ones that your body utilizes a lot and keeps your entire electrical system in your body very um, uh, receptive to moving energy around your body to where it's needed.
And so electrolytes, when we get depleted, it's because we've been sick or somebody's an athlete and they're sweating out all their minerals. Do minerals come out in sweat?
They do. So when you're sweating, they come out actually lots of different ways. But mostly, so here's the thing about minerals that people should understand. So you can go and drink some Gatorade, okay, and you can get some minerals into your body. And somebody said to me recently that they were taking this really great electrolyte product that was in the same ratios as their sweat. So they're sweating out minerals and they're drinking minerals. Okay. The problem is that your excretion system is completely different. Sweating is excretion, and it's completely different than the way that minerals are replenished in your body. So it's an interesting thing. Minerals work in these pairs and triumvirates and quads, and this is really important for aging women. The women with the osteopenia and osteoporosis. Guess who else has osteopenia and osteoporosis is aging athletes. Now, they have it because they've taken so much magnesium and potassium as electrolytes in their life that their body has tried to balance these large concentrations of the minerals by pulling calcium and phosphorus from their bones. And they've ended up with osteopenia and osteoporosis, and many of them have all sorts of mineral depletion issues because every time you take a large amount of a single mineral, even a couple of minerals, and you put it in your gut, your body tries to balance it. Your body is this incredibly miraculous, phenomenal has this amazing capacity to create balance, to create homeostasis. And taking pills, in large amounts and putting it in your gut is not the best way to replenish minerals because it creates these kinds of imbalances. There's a lot of women using magnesium for sleep, or they're using magnesium for elimination because they tend to get constipated. And I don't recommend it. It maybe once in a while to use it that way, once in a while. But to do it on a daily basis, absolutely not. It's not good for your body long term, and if you have any osteopenia or osteoporosis, it can exacerbate it. Now, the same thing is if you want to get calcium into your bones, I think there's lots of research out there and lots of stuff out there saying that you can't just take calcium to get calcium into your bones.
I know a young man who is in the TV business and is travels a lot and is in the production trucks on site at sporting events and things like that. And at the age of 30, he had osteoporosis.
Exactly.
And he was telling me that he heard from the doctors didn't know what was going on, but he heard from somebody who was a health and nutrition expert saying it's because of all the EMFs that you're exposed to. And I said, "Well, I would think there are a lot of EMFs in a truck." And he said, "Oh, it's hooked up to a satellite dish. We probably have thousands of wires and cords. There are probably 50 computer monitors, plus everybody's laptops, plus everybody's cell phones. Plus, I'm flying to and from wherever the game is that weekend." Have you heard of other cases like that in a young male?
Well, I have heard of young people with, osteopenia and osteoporosis, yeah, and it is an issue, absolutely. Yeah,
Is it
and
from
again, people of
EMFs?
different again, I am not an EMF expert. I know quite a few people who truly are, but if you think about what I think about related to this is if you think about your body as an electrical system, okay? And this is we're gonna actually delve down. We're gonna go down a little rabbit hole for a moment, okay? And you will totally understand this. If you keep going down the rabbit hole and you're gonna think about cells, and then you're gonna think about the mitochondria in the cells, and then you're gonna think about the food you eat, which has to get broken down all the way down to its ionic chemical components like magnesium, potassium, like down to its mineral components. Now you take those mineral ions and you break them up, and they're carbon and oxygen and their CO2 or their that's not one, but you know what I mean. My point being that they break down into atomic structures, and ultimately these things break down, and what are they? Their frequency.
There you go.
Do you see?
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
when I studied, it's so
Yeah.
amazing. Sometime go and read about how oxygen actually is incorporated into your body. It will blow your mind because it's happening at an atomic level. It's actually happening at an extremely, extremely micro level. And it's all frequency. This thing is spinning off an atom onto another atom, and that's how it gets into your body. It's literally all frequency. So if you think about your body as completely a frequency engine, or y- uh, a particular energetic pattern, then it totally makes sense that EMF would definitely mess with that.
Well, you bring up a really good point. Recently, I read a study that scientists, I don't remember the university, it was a big university, researchers, they discovered that at the center of every nucleus of every human cell is a black hole.
Yes, I was just reading this recently also.
Yeah, and what's the black hole? The black hole is source. In the work that I do, Caroline, you know this, there are vortices, a lot of vortices. There are black holes we go through when we're going in between different realities. There are vortices used to heal, especially when I'm using stem cell energy. There's always a vortex present. There's this thing called vortex mathematics, which is way above my pay grade. But I see vortices all the time being used. And that's what a black hole is. When somebody has a near death experience, where they talk about going through the tunnel, the black hole. And so I completely understand what you're talking about, that it's all a frequency. And how miraculous is that?
It
You,
really is.
when you say that everything's comprised of minerals, I picture this pile of a little bit of sand, grains of sand that all these different plants and animals and bodies and everything originate from, but nobody's ever taught us that it's all we get the energy thing, we've heard that, not that we understand it, but never that the energy is the first part, and then minerals, it sounds like to me, is the next
Yes.
step next to the frequency. Is
Yes.
that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you are, absolutely. So each mineral has its own particular energetic signature. That's how it's recognized. And each one has a resonance pattern, and it connects with other resonant patterns, etc. So this is how things are incorporated into your body, into your cells, ultimately utilized by the mitochondria. I mean, this is at such a micro level, and you cannot minimize the miraculousness of this homeostasis engine and this ecosystem, or set of ecosystems, filled with microbiomes, that our body is. Someone actually even, if you think about our body as sets of uh, cells, and then you think of inside the cell, there's mitochondria, and these mitochondria generate almost all of the energy in your body. And what fuels them is minerals and amino acids. But the scale of it is unbelievable. Actually, someone told me recently that the mitochondria was originally a separate entity from the cell, and and cells in is so actually a separate organism, and cells incorporated the mitochondria said, "Oh, there's a great energy source. Let's just use those." You know?
And so mitochondria is what causes the cells to divide and replicate to the tune of billions of them a day. Is that correct?
Exactly. Well, and in what it does, actually, the mitochondria, it has a life cycle, and it's got all these stages, and actually, let me give a sense of the scale because this is really it helps you understand what we're actually talking about. So, you have about 37 to 150 trillion cells in an adult human, and inside each cell, you have a lot of mitochondria. Like on the back of your hand here, you might have 200 mitochondria in a single cell. In your heart, you might have 5 to 8,000 mitochondria in a single cell. In your brain, in a single cell on your neuron in your brain, up to 2 million mitochondria. So, yes, so the scale of how much energy is being generated via these mitochondria any given instant is phenomenal. And it makes sense because I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm not, you know, what's possible with this body is phenomenal.
I agree. All right, let's back up a little bit. How, and I know you're a corporate gal like I was. I want you to share everybody that story of how does a corporate gal
Mhm.
go into being a mineral expert and teaching the world how important minerals are. And the thing that I appreciate the most about you is that you present this information in a way that's understandable to just the average person. Not we I don't have any scientific background, but you make it so understandable for me. And I know it seems to me like you're on a mission from God. So
I'm on a mission for the minerals.
you're on a mission from God through the minerals to utilizing the minerals to really educate the world about how we can help ourselves heal, remain healthy, that kind of thing. Because I always say the body has a tremendous capacity to heal itself. I don't buy this stuff about the body attacks itself. That just is nonsense to me. I you can tell me the most brilliant scientist who says that, I'll say it's still nonsense. The body's programmed to heal. So tell us how your journey has taken you from being a corporate person into the mineral maven.
So I was in a corporate career in high tech, really intense career, and I burned out, about it was about 2010, and at that time, I had flatlined adrenals. I'd had them for about 2 years, really bad inflammation in my gut, even though I'd been gluten-free for 7, 8 years, could never get over that inflammation. I had um, bad inflammation in my sinuses with recurring sinus infections every 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, really regularly. And I could never truly get rid of it. I had really bad inflammation in my mouth and my gums. So I had bone loss. I had receding gums and bone loss in my teeth and deep pockets. So you can imagine that I didn't feel very well. And I met my now business partner, Dan Howard, and he introduced me to these liquid plant-based minerals. And he said, you might want to try these. They might help you. And I was like, okay, sure. They tasted like water, very easy to drink. So I took them and I drank them every day. And surprisingly, I woke up in the morning and I wanted them. Like my body said, oh, remember those minerals. And I had them. And after about 2 months, I went to my dentist, and she looked in my mouth at the exam point and was just so surprised. She's like, "I cannot believe that this is happening. Um, your gums are no longer inflamed." Oh, I told Chris, "Chris, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna start over. Chris, I told you all my alarms were off, and then my phone alarm went, so I'm gonna just step back, and you can edit this part out." So I went to my dentist and she looked in my mouth at the exam moment and she was surprised. She was like, the tissues in your mouth are pink and healthy. You didn't bleed when your teeth were cleaned, and the pH is completely different in your mouth. What has changed? And I was, and I've been working with this dentist for 2 years, trying different things, seeing what we could do. I did all of the good hygiene things. And I said, I think it might be these minerals. I don't know. She said, okay, keep taking them. Then 4 months in, I went to my naturopath and I did the adrenal test, a saliva test, and I went in for the results. She was surprised again looking at the results of my adrenals after being completely flatlined for 2 years. She had wanted me at my last appointment to take hydrocortisone, and I wasn't gonna do that, and they were one-third of the way up the chart with their natural sawtooth pattern. So over the space of about 8 or 9 months, all those symptoms that I just described to you completely resolved. I have not been sick except for COVID in 8 years. So it's, it's unbelievable what can happen, and I couldn't really understand what was happening, and I kept going to Dan and going like, "This is crazy, like, what's happening? I think I need to figure out, like, how these little cups of liquid could make such a difference." And I started researching, and that's when I just went way down the rabbit hole and studied microbiology and cellular biology and all about, these minerals, these plant-based minerals and where they come from and how they work. And as I was doing that, I kept having these aha moments, and these aha moments were so mind-blowing to me, and so that I felt that I had to bring the information to the public. And I've literally spent, since 2012, you know, trying to find ways to explain this very complex subject to people in ways that anyone can understand it. I'm working on a book, actually. Very
Oh,
excited
great.
about that. Yeah.
Good. What are you gonna cover in the book?
I'm gonna cover minerals, why you should actually think about minerals as the source of many of your chronic issues that you're experiencing. Mineral depletion and deficiency.
Do you have a bodyguard? Is that gonna Do you need to have a bodyguard because it's gonna get rid of a bunch of pharmaceuticals that
No,
people
because
are taking?
what I always say, and I'll say this, it's really important. Minerals don't heal anything. So I am not in competition with pharmaceutical. I mean, not that they heal anything either, but I all that minerals do is provide the foundational support to the body so that it can do what it naturally can do.
Well, yeah, I don't think anything heals anybody else. I think we heal ourselves. The work that I do, the work that a medical provider does. People will say, "Oh, you healed me." No. What I did was I helped you facilitate healing yourself. And I use the analogy a lot of you have a big cut in your leg, a big gash in your leg, and you go to the emergency room and they stitch it up. Well, the doctor who sewed up your leg doesn't make your skin grow back. You make your own skin grow back. And the minerals help your skin grow back. So do a multitude of other factors. But I preach that a lot. It's important for us to know the body has the capacity to heal absolutely anything, and we heal it ourselves based on what it's been my experience based on what our spirit wants to explore and experience in this lifetime. So sometimes death is the healing.
Mhm. Yeah, right.
Louise Hay used to say, "Happy, healthy, dead." That's my motto. Happy, healthy, dead. When I'm done, all right, fine. I'm
I
I'm
should
out of
tell
here.
you my own little healing journey that I had recently because I think it would interest you. So, I have had a little bit of toe fungus on my left big toe and the 3rd toe for about 12 years, 10 to 12 years, and I have tried everything to get rid of it. And recently, about 4 weeks ago, I was sitting in a meditation and a healing meditation, and I felt this charge of energy flow through my body and go all the way out to the tips of my fingers. And in the particular areas where I've had and toes, where I've had those, I felt particular tingling. and on one of the toes, the littler toe, that fungus is completely gone, and on the big toe, it's about halfway gone.
So what do you think happened?
Uh, that's a good question, Julie,
Mhm.
um, because I have no idea.
I think you
All
got a
I
frequency upgrade. I think your frequency, because 'cause you're on a mission from God. I've told you that before, and I really believe that, that you're being led. Did you know you are? You're being
Oh, yeah, I
led
am. I
to
sometimes I'm like, "Where am I going?"
you're not supposed to know, because if you knew, then that would take away the adventure, but well, seriously,
I love you,
if
G.
you're on a roller coaster ride for the first time, it's never as good as the first time when you go back. It's always fun, but it's the anticipation, right? That song. But that's what I got. That's what I was hearing when you were talking about that in the meditation. You had a frequency upgrade
That totally
because
makes sense. Yes.
because you're at a high frequency now, Caroline, because you're allowing spirit to guide you on your path of what to do with this and who to talk to and how to get this information out, not just to market your products, but there's a much bigger picture here
Yes.
that I know is your mission. And the products are a way for people to utilize this information in a practical way. That's what I'm all about, combining spirituality and practicality to help
Mhm.
us live a more joyful, productive life. And so you're giving them the opportunity to utilize products that are helping them heal their own bodies. And
Yes.
and it and there's a much bigger picture going on here because 'cause I've watched you from afar, and I'm thinking, "How is she coming up with that?" And I'm thinking, "Well, duh, Ryan, she's being inspired."
Mhm. It's true.
Spirit's giving you ways to get this information out to others.
It's
So,
true.
I
You know, that
commend you on that.
and my hope is to really help people get back to simplicity. I don't know if I've told you this, but I've spent a lot of time in the aisles at health food stores talking to people who are buying bottles of pills, and their basket has, zinc, and it has some magnesium and some calcium and some potassium and selenium and some chromium, and I'm like, "Well, what are you gonna do with those?" And they're like, "Well, I'm gonna go home and take them." And I know that those things they're gonna take them for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe if they're really diligent, a couple months, and then they're gonna end up in the cupboard in the supplement graveyard, because it's not sustainable. Not only is it not sustainable, it doesn't work. And so, what an amazing th and it's expensive, exactly.
Yeah,
So, what an
yeah,
amazing thing. Of course, Mother Nature designed the perfect tool for replenishing minerals in the body, and that's what again, it's not about my products, it's about making health and easy for people, making a return to homeostasis and energy. What if you had just even 10% more energy than you have today? And all you had to do is just drink this water that I'm drinking that's got my minerals in it, and it tastes like water.
right. First time I saw that, it looks like a Coke or a really strong iced tea. And so that's what I do is I pour your minerals into a big glass of water. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I just emulate you. You're the expert on it. And then I drink it with my other stuff. So if somebody's taking, let's say, extra vitamin C and zinc and maybe magnesium, and they're doing the B minerals, do they negate the minerals? Like you said, the body's gonna go back to homeostasis. Do we just urinate out the extra? What happens in that situation?
Well, so first of all, if you were taking B minerals on a regular basis, you would not need to take any other mineral supplementation. You might still want to take your vitamin C and definitely your vitamin D, and so those kinds of things, the things that aren't minerals. Now, the challenge being that sometimes if you're taking a multivitamin, it will also include minerals. So
Right.
then I would recommend taking a vitamins that do not have added minerals. The reason is, so I love this explanation because it helps people understand it. What we know about our gut now, the gut microbiome, think of it like a beautiful forest. So you've got this incredibly healthy, lush place. There's all these natural nutrients in the soil from plants that have decomposed, and they're all the minerals are in the soil, and you've got enough water, and you've got fresh air coming through, and everything's in its natural life cycle. Now go take a wheelbarrow of magnesium and throw it on the forest floor. And what happens to the plants in that area? They don't thrive. And in fact, that ecosystem starts going, okay, we got to figure out a way to get rid of this. This is way too much. These plants are struggling. So they would it hopes for rain to clear it away, and then also actually there are other things like humic that will remove that excess. But if we think about our body like an ecosystem, what you want to do is give it small amounts of extremely bioavailable nutrients, and that's what the beam minerals represent.
So somebody that's super mineral deficient, let's say a 300-pound guy who's an athlete and a petite woman who's mineral deficient, and they drink the same amount of the B minerals, how does that work?
Well, so they wouldn't. So an athlete, and this is why I say a regular person who's maybe goes to the gym a couple times a week, that kind of thing, they would take the regular amount. Now, what I really like to do is talk about these products as tools, okay? Because what you have here is not only full spectrum mineral replenishment with the two products together, which we call microboost, which is this dark colored one, and then electrolyze, which is the light colored one. And the light colored one is fulvic. And fulvic is like your ideal electrolyte replenisher. And the reason it's ideal is number one, it doesn't require any digestion because it has no flavor. It's just minerals and water completely ready for absorption into your system. So, and the fulvic molecule, is so small that it absorbs through any tissue that it touches. So
What's
we go,
fulvic?
fulvic is a molecule, okay? It's a plant-based mineral molecule. And when I say plant-based, what I mean is that it comes fro during the decomposition of freshwater plants. It's the result of decomposed freshwater plants. Now, this particular fulvic comes from 65 million-year-old plants, so it's an ancient molecule.
So 65 million year old decomposed plants, the fact that it's been decomposed for 65 million years, does that give it more of a concentration of minerals than something that's recently decomposed?
Yes. So imagine back when the dinosaurs lived, there were rainforests all around the world in many, many places. And a meteor hit the earth, it hit the Yucatan. And when it hit, it killed 75% of all life on earth in a few hours. And all of those rainforests died and decomposed. And there's different substances around the world that are these decomposed rainforest material. One is called shilajit. They have that in the Himalayas. They have peat in the British Isles, black soil in the Amazon basin. And this material we use is called humate. And it's a black, crystalline, kind of sandy substance. And it's extremely mineral rich to the point where for one single human, an entire year, you might need half a cup of it. Very, very
Wow.
small
Where do you
amount.
get it?
So it comes from the Southwest United States, and it's about 10 to 12 feet below the surface of the earth, which is really great because it's very pure and has never had any contact with modern pollutants.
Okay. So that's fulvic,
So, actually, that material is called humate, and
human.
we extract out of humate these 2 molecules, and some people have heard of them as fulvic and humic acid. Our products are not acids. Nothing bad about acids, it's just that they've been extracted using acid and then they taste bad. So all of the humic and fulvic products that they use in agriculture are humic and fulvic acids because no one the plants don't care how they taste, but we do. So, and fulvic and humic are 2 molecules that have they both carry this full spectrum of minerals that your body needs in the natural ratios, which is a really important fact. So, there's a lot of magnesium and potassium and phosphorus and things that your body uses a lot of, but there are also in varying smaller ratios all the micronutrients that your body needs. So, drinking this glass of liquid just gives me all of them in the natural ratios, which treats my microbiome in my gut like an ecosystem and doesn't cause any imbalances. Now, when we talk about the athlete who's using their body a lot more, burning many more minerals to generate the energy that they need for their performance, they would just use the electrolytes, the fulvic product, as a way to provide more mineral content to their body in an extremely bioavailable way. Because that molecule is so small, requires no digestion, they feel it almost immediately when they're really depleted. We go to bike races, and, at the aid station, the bikers come in and they're, like, cramping, they're shaking, they're exhausted, they're struggling to maintain, and we give them a shot of the electrolytes, and 30 seconds later, they're like, "Whoa, what just happened?" Because 'Cause they've never had an experience like that. They're used to taking flavored electrolytes that are salt-based, they trash their stomach, and they don't work for 18 or 20 minutes.
I've heard that about the salt. They give them salt water, so that
Yeah,
makes
they'll
sense.
use pickle juice, and the thing is you have to realize your digestive tract is a freshwater system, you see.
The other thing, back to my question about somebody who's my size, I'm 5'9" versus somebody who's a woman who's 5 feet tall, and we take the same dose. How does that work?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to say is that a larger person would take more, and depending on your lifestyle, that's why you have a tool that you can take the base amount, your half cap each day is your foundational amount. If you were a football player and you're going to work out every day, you're probably gonna take a full ounce of each, and then you're gonna probably put an extra thing of an extra shot of electrolytes in your water bottle, and then after you work out for 4 hours or 6 hours, doing training, you're probably gonna have another shot. So you're gonna really utilize this a lot,
Okay.
okay?
And
And
that's
then
is that on your website?
yeah,
What the dosages are if
yeah, so
you're
if you look at the back of the bottle, there's a QR code here, and the QR code, when you scan that, it takes you to a product usage page. It has lots of details about using the products with kids, or if you're very sensitive, or if you're an athlete, using it for different, scenarios in one's life. It's different than, taking a salt-based powder electrolyte drink or something that you're gonna just put in your water, and again, I don't recommend those.
okay. All right. I have a gal who's graduate of my class, and we were talking about this recently when we were together. And she said, "Thank you so much for introducing me to those minerals." And I said, "Well, you're welcome." And she said, she's in her 70s. She's a retired nurse. So she has a pretty good understanding of basically of this stuff. And she said that for many years, her antioxidant levels were low. And she started taking the B minerals, and she said she went in for her just routine annual exam, and she'd been taking them for about 6 months or so, and they were higher than normal. They were way higher than what they'd been over the past several years, and her doctor said, "Wow, what are you doing?" Similar to what your dentist said to you. And she said, "I'm taking these B minerals," and she gave her the website. She gave her your website, and the doctor said, "Well, keep doing what you're doing because this is amazing." And there were several other parameters in her blood work. The the young man who's in the TV business that had osteoporosis took him for about a year, and his osteoporosis was gone. It went
Mhm.
away.
Yeah.
And I have several other stories of that. I take them every morning. My husband takes them. Our son Jonathan takes them. I'm a huge advocate because none of us have been sick at all with anything in the year that we've been taking them. And that's really the only difference that I can think of that And not that I get sick a lot, I don't, but I'll get, like, a little cold or something, and I think one time I can think of in the past year where I started getting a little bit of sniffles, that was in the evening when I got up the next morning, I didn't have them. They were completely gone. So, you're really onto something with
Yep.
this because I know personally, I've noticed a huge difference, and everybody that I know who's taking them says it's subtle. It's not like you feel a difference right away, but if you look at it over a long period of time, several months, it is like the light bulb goes off and you say, "Okay, well, that's really the only thing that I've changed."
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
interesting.
know those lights that they're these LED lights, and when you turn them on, they start out dim, and then you come back, 15 minutes later, and the room is really light.
Yeah,
And or even if you're sitting there, you suddenly go, "Oh, it's lighter now," you know? And that's the thing is this is way our body actually likes to work with slow incremental changes. In nature, big changes are like a forest fire, an earthquake, a volcano, things that are not very comfortable.
yeah, good point. Do herbicides and pesticides and/or GMO foods leach minerals out of our bodies?
Yes. So particularly glyphosate, and if people don't know what that is, it's what they use on genetically modified foods, and it's a pesticide or an herbicide actually that's sprayed onto the plants, and the plants are genetically modified to live while the weeds that are not genetically modified die. Now, the problem with this glyphosate is that it causes havoc in your body, particularly in the gut and also with cognition, with sleep. It interrupts the development of melatonin in your body. It allows your body to store more aluminum, which is a problem related to Alzheimer's. It also affects what they call the first line of defense, which is a set of enzymes called the CP450 enzymes in your gut, and it interrupts the production of those. And then ultimately, what happens is you end up with leaky gut. So, this is basically where the lining of your gut is not contiguous, complete, and there are holes where food particles can get into your bloodstream and they cause all sorts of problems. That's just the beginning. I mean, there are so many problems with glyphosate. So, if there's anyone in the audience who has a lot of gut inflammation, they've had a struggle getting rid of it, they really should go and get tested for glyphosate. You can actually get a test on Amazon that you can do yourself, which is a good thing to do, but you can also go to a lot of natural practitioners will be able to do that for you as well. The beautiful thing about it is a humic, which is our microboost product, is the most well-known and effective remover of glyphosate from the body, and there are quite a few scientific studies showing that humic is absolutely effective in removing, glyphosate. In addition, it also removes things like nanoplastics and microplastics from the system. It removes, all sorts of, pollutants as well as just bio-waste toxins and heavy metals, particularly effective at the removal of heavy metals. It's like I like to describe it like a Velcro ball that hangs out in your bloodstream. It's much larger than a cell. It's very, very sticky and has a lot of surface area. And it just moves through your bloodstream chemically binding with things like glyphosate and heavy metals and senescent cells. People call them zombie cells. It's basically a cell that has died and needs to be removed from your body so it doesn't create that oxidative stress that can be so hard on the body.
Are our children vulnerable to having mineral deficiencies, or is it primarily adults?
Children are way, way more affected. So this is again why I believe we have such a huge rise in chronic symptoms among children of obesity, brain fog, ADHD, autism, all these different things that are happening with young people. And this is partly because not only are they're drinking bottled and filtered water because the parents are trying to keep them healthy, which I completely understand, but they're not getting the minerals from their food. Lots of kids don't eat well anyway. Lots of parents end up giving their kids, lots of processed foods because that's what the kids want. And their bodies are developing. So when your body is developing, actually it needs way, way more minerals than somebody who's a fully grown adult.
And what are some of the symptoms that you see in kids? You mentioned some of them, certainly the
Yeah,
cognitive things too, but are you seeing other symptoms in kids? And then what are some of the most common symptoms in adults
yeah.
that are mineral deficient?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story about a young girl. Her grandfather wrote us, and he had a granddaughter, her Orion, I think her name was, 6 years old, and she was a terror, absolute terror. They would go visit, and she would just be like, she was just mean, and she was complained constantly of aching in her joints and in her legs. She had really struggle in school. She was a biter and all these. I mean, really a terror kid. And the grandfather who had been taking our minerals suggested that the mother try giving her the minerals, and which the mother did, and 3 weeks later, they came to visit, and the daughter had completely changed into, like, another child. She was like, "Grandma, come on, let's go, come sit with me. Do you want my cookie?" Just an abs and she had stopped complaining of the pain in her, the discomfort in her legs. So, that's just one story. Another story is, we work with an autism group in a group that works with autistic children in Salt Lake. And they decided to do a test with our minerals. They had two twins, two girls, and one was very, very low functioning, had no words, had a lot of outbursts because she couldn't communicate, really struggled. And the older one just had a few words. And they decided they would give the minerals to the younger twin who didn't have any words, and not to the older twin. And within 2 weeks, the younger twin well surpassed her older twin, could speak not only just words, but was stringing words together into sentences, and her outbursts had greatly decreased. And so they were like, "Well, okay, well, this is we just have to start giving it to everybody." So it's a part of their protocol for, all their behavioral challenges with the kids.
So do you believe that with a I know a lot of information about ketogenic diets, especially with from Chris Palmer at Harvard, for kids and for adults. So
Yeah.
that combined with the mineral supplementation is helping these people and
Yes.
these kids heal their bodies.
Yeah.
And the ketogenic diet doesn't have a lot of plants in there,
No.
but the animals eat the plants is kinda what I figure. Is that am I assuming that correctly?
That is correct. I mean, the challenge with the ketogenic diet is doing it on a long-term basis. Ultimately what you end up needing to do is some carb cycling. I mean, I know there are the paleo people but how long I don't know. So I'm not a diet. I don't have any particular idea about that. I think every body is different. Every lifestyle is different. Every people have to find the thing that works for them. Clearly, the ketogenic diet is anti-inflammatory, um, and and but to do the ketogenic diet on a regular basis, it's absolutely, definitely necessary to supplement with minerals and electrolytes.
So, insomnia, that's helped by taking the Beam minerals.
Absolutely. We hear it again and again and again.
Okay. Cramps.
Yes, absolutely. So I say to anybody who has night cramping, hand cramping, foot cramping regularly, you are mineral deficient. The reason you have cramping is that your body does not have enough energy to release that muscle.
How about menstrual cramps?
Absolutely, menstrual cramps. So
Are
there's
menstrual cramps mineral deficiency as well?
well, I'm gonna tell you that I have so many women who have had painful periods and stop having painful periods once they are mineral, replenished.
Wow, that's a big statement, Carolyn. That's a big
It
statement.
it's
How
it is.
how about endometriosis and all of that too? Is that affected by the mineral replenishment?
So endometriosis is supported by mineral replenishment, absolutely, and we work with an endometriosis expert. I'm blanking on her name at the moment, but she swears by the minerals with her protocols. Absolutely.
Okay. Can pets be deficient in minerals too? I would think the answer to that would be yes.
Pets are actually more deficient than humans because most pet food is horribly made. Most of it has glyphosate in it because it's just made from meal, and it absolutely pet and the other thing is that pets do, especially dogs that go outside or cats that go outside, they are down where lots of people are spraying glyphosate for landscaping and different things like that. So, we do have a pet line, that is for pets, and I highly recommend it.
Tell us about that. Do you just pour the fluid on their dog food or how does that work?
Yeah, so the best way, the way we recommend is we have the 2 products. Like a complete mineral product and a complete electrolyte product. So again, you have 2 tools. If you have a very active dog who goes out to play a lot outside and you run throwing frisbees and that kind of thing, and you're in a hot environment, they need electrolytes the same way you do. And a great way to give that to them is with the electrolyte product. Um, the mineral product comes with a dropper, and it's more concentrated than the human product, mainly because you wanna just put it right on their food because you know they're gonna eat all their food. That way, they're gonna get all of the minerals they need by, getting it on the food. Whereas sometimes you put a bowl of water down, they don't drink it all.
Yeah.
It's also
Yeah.
extremely important for cats. Cats get, the electrolyte product for we have a feline electrolyte product. Cats get all of their in nature, they get all of their liquid from the food they eat. They drink very little liquid water. So if you can get the electrolytes into them, it's a huge help to them. Many cats have kidney issues because of it.
Interesting. I love the Instalights. Tell us about the Instalights. When you first told me about those, I was like, "Yeah, no way, I don't buy that." Yeah, So tell us about that, and then I'll tell you what I've experienced with it.
Cool. So the Instalights is a fulvic spray. So if remember how small that fulvic molecule is so small that it can enter a cell and it will enter through any opening that happens in that cell. So it's extremely bioavailable. You can spray it on the outside of your skin and it will absorb into the muscle in your body in like 3 to 5 seconds. So let's say you wake up in the night with a cramp, you can spray it on and it will in 30 to 45 seconds release most cramping. If you're extremely mineral deficient, it doesn't work for everybody, I'm gonna tell you that because of the level of depletion that you're experiencing in your body. If you do experience regular night cramps, you would spray it on before you go to bed, and most people will not get a cramp because it absorbs right into the local area that most needs it, and you won't get the cramp. That's one of the uses. What's your story?
Well, 2 people that are close to me. One is a graduate of my class who's a stunt woman in the movies. I mean,
Oh, wow.
she's just a badass. She's fabulous. She drives cars off of bridges and, I mean, does crazy stuff, crazy stuff. And I was with her and she had tweaked her back doing something. And so I said, "I got this spray. Well, you wanna be my guinea pig?" And she said, "Yeah." And so I sprayed it on her back and it helped a little. And then I said, "Let's just do it again." And we did it 5 minutes later. And within a couple of minutes, she was totally pain free. And I had scanned her. She didn't have any herniated discs or anything before I did it, but she had just tweaked something. She pulled a muscle or something. She did that. And then my brother had some neck issues. He uses it every day on his neck, and he said it takes the pain away. He said he uses it usually a couple of times a day, and he said he carries it with him, and it comes in little bottles that he can get through if he's traveling, he can get through the TSA people. Both of them are such disciples of
I
that
never go
because
anywhere without it.
it works. Yeah, it works so well. And then the Happy Light, and first of all, what's in the Instalights? I know it's got the minerals, but what else?
All that's in it is fulvic minerals. That's it. Fulvic minerals. So the beautiful thing is, so again, anytime you have an additive, if you take something, if let's say we thought, oh, we're going to make our fulvic better, we're going to add something to it, it actually would lower the bioavailability. So so the reason the we put the essential oils in some of our other products that we can talk about is because they have a scent, and it has to do with the way your olfactory system works.
Well, that's the Happy Lights product. Tell us about that,
Yeah. So the Happy Lights product has bergamot in it. And interestingly enough, for most people, when they smell bergamot,
which is
it,
what?
bergamot is a citrus fruit. Yeah. So it's a citrusy smell. It has a very specific smell. When you smell it, you go, "Oh yeah, I've smelled that before." It's really a lovely smell. And also we should just clarify the scent is very light. It disappears in 10 seconds. So you just have to smell it once, and what happens is your olfactory system is connected with your lower brainstem, which is where neurotransmitters are triggered. So when that happens, when you smell bergamot, it triggers a release of endorphins in most people. So if you're having anxiety, you're having a panic attack, even a burst of anger, or depression, ongoing depression, you can use happy lights as a way to break the cycle. So let's say if you're anxious and you're just feeling that tight, stomach, you can breathe it in, and it usually will shift people's neurotransmitter wash in under 10 seconds.
And you say spray it 12 inches or so in front of your
Yeah,
face,
you
and then
literally you take it, you hold it out. I usually hold it about 18 inches from my face, and I spray like 5 or 6 times, spray, and I breathe in really deeply, and then in a few seconds, I mean, for me, because I know the feeling, I'm aware that it makes a shift in literally 5 seconds. I can feel the difference.
I have a client who has a granddaughter that's 8. And this little girl has depression and anxiety issues. And they're working on her food and they're working on things like that with her. And I said, why don't you try this Happy Lights stuff just for kicks and see if it makes a difference? Caroline, this child won't go anywhere without her Happy Lights little spray bottle. She has a little purse, it's a Hello Kitty purse or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, and she has it in there. She has another bottle. She's a swimmer. She has another bottle in her, swim bag, with her stuff that she takes to the pool. And her grandmother said, "This child will not go anywhere without the Happy Lights." And for an 8-year-old to notice that much of a difference is really a remarkable thing because they don't know they're supposed to notice a difference.
Right. We have this a lot with teenagers. Parents come and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring this Happy Lights home for my teenager." I'm like, "Okay, you can bring it home, but you're not gonna spray it at them. You're not gonna even give it to them. What you're gonna do is you're gonna just when they're around, you're gonna spray it on yourself and breathe it in." And they're gonna go, "What is that?" And you go, "I don't know. It's this stuff called Happy Lights." And it's gonna disappear and end up, and then they're gonna come back to you later, and they're gonna go, "Yeah, my friend Susie wants one too, and my friend Joni wants one too." That's what usually happens.
That's a great strategy to do that. And then the Boo lights.
Yeah. Boo Boo Light is amazing. So it kind of has a lavendery smell, and the amazing thing about is it will remove the pain of a bee sting, a mosquito bite, even a scrape, a kid falls and scrapes their knee, you spray it on, it I mean, it removes the pain, burns, it's incredible on burns. I had our granddaughter, put her hand on a fireplace glass, burned her whole palm. I just kept spraying that. And within 15 minutes, she was smiling, running around, even though she had blisters on her hand, she just the pain was gone. So it also works on poison oak and ivy,
And bug
um,
bites.
sugar bites, yeah, bug bites, all sorts of things like that. Yeah.
I'm super allergic to mosquitoes and chiggers, and I live in the deep south, so they got chiggers. I mean,
Oh, I hate chiggers.
I got my wellies on if I'm in the pine straw because chiggers love the pine straw. But I when I get a mosquito bite, it gets a blister on it,
Yeah.
and I have used this boo-boo lights on it. It takes the itch away, and it keeps the blister from forming.
Isn't it
Girl,
crazy?
oh my god. When I was a kid, I went to summer camp for a week when I was in the 4th grade. I had so many mosquito bites, I had them all over my eyes. My eyes were
Oh,
swollen shut.
no.
It
Oh,
looked like
no.
I'd been abused when my parents came to pick me up, but mosquitoes love me, and they used to put Campho-Phenique on me, and I just smelled awful, and it was horrible, and it didn't help with the itch or anything, and this stuff is miraculous with that's good to know about the poison ivy and the poison oak
Yeah,
as
really,
well.
really good for that.
Yeah. Does that help keep it from spreading too, or it just helps with the
I don't know, we've heard some reports back from people who could not get rid of their poison oak, and that's what ended up removing it was the boo-boo lights. They tried all the other different creams and potions that are out there.
Yeah, if I get that stuff, it goes systemic, it's nasty, it's awful. Yeah, okay, and then the last one's Respiralites. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Respiralites is a sinus opening, so it's kinda got some eucalyptus kind of, smells in it. Again, you spray and breathe it in. People who have, seasonal allergies swear by this, for clearing out the seasonal allergies and keeping their sinuses open when they're struggling with that. It's also I like it on, when I get off the airplane, just because eucalyptus is also, an antibacterial. So you've been breathing in that air on the airplane, so you just breathe some Respiralites to get rid of whatever's just been caught in your sinuses.
So a couple more questions as we're winding down here. How did you come up with the boo-boo lights and the Respiralites and the happy lights and all that stuff? How did that come out of minerals?
Well, Dan, my business partner, he used to have an essential oil business. When I first met him, he had an essential oil business and he was selling a few minerals on the side. And so he has a deep and personal relationship with essential oils, and he works with them energetically, and he loves them. So these different like the Booby Lights and the Respirite mixes they're actually amazing blends of essential oils that he has worked on over the years.
Did they have not all of them have minerals in them though, right?
They all have minerals. They all
They
have the
all have
fulvic.
minerals.
Yeah, they all have the fulvic. So they're basically fulvic with an essential oil added. The Instalites is just straight fulvic. Yeah.
And so the fulvic with the essential oils is a double benefit because why?
Because when you breathe the fulvic in, because the molecule is so small, you get an instantaneous up, you instantaneously oh, wait, hold on. My brain. You get an instantaneous infusion of electrolytes through your sinuses and through your skin. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have runners who actually carry an Instalites, trail runners. They carry a little bottle of Instalites, and when they're running, they just spray and breathe it in. Great
Instead
way
of
because they don't
ingesting it. Yeah,
exactly.
it makes sense. Okay. Last question. Doesn't have anything to do with well, maybe it does have to do with minerals. Why do we incarnate?
I am just learning about that. I think I think we're here to do God's work. I think we are just like we're like a little expression of God here. Whatever God is. Yeah.
you're not a blues brother, you're a blues sister. You're on a mission from God to teach the world about minerals. And and the reason why I wanted to have you back on is because you've got these products that help people that are affordable, and my intention was not to make this into an infomercial for Beam Minerals, but
Yeah.
rather to explain why we're deficient in these minerals and what's an easy, affordable way that we can replenish them and know that it's going to benefit us, our family members, and our pets among other people that are friends and family, and I think you're doing a remarkable job with this stuff. I've noticed, as I said, I've noticed a difference in myself, in my family members, in friends that are using these different products, and I just think you're extraordinary. I think the work you're doing is absolutely divinely inspired, and I can't say enough good things about you. I'm a huge fangirl of you and
Thank
your
you so
products.
much.
And I thank you for having the courage to really switch careers and bring this to the market and the courage to put yourself out there because you're out there with a bunch of scientists with a bunch of alphabet soup in the form of degree letters at the end of their names, and you know more than they do in a lot of instances.
Yeah, actually, I find that I do. And it's interesting to meet these scientists and just take what they're saying and their gobbledygook of language and just break it down and go, "Well, you know, actually it's like this." And they're like, "Oh, actually you're right." So, um,
Well, and part of that, I think, is because you haven't been conditioned to think about this stuff in a certain way. And so your brain has been open to be able to receive the information and then go in a different pattern than the academics. And we love academics and we love the research they do and all of that. But you're such a great adjunct to
mm,
that in the work that you're doing because you're not boxed in by thinking a certain way. When I was in my 20s, especially in I would say my late 20s, I had more than one person say to me, "You need to go get your MBA." And I'd say, "Well, why do I need an MBA? I hire MBAs. I don't want it messing up my brain." And they'd say, "Well, what do you mean messing up your brain?" And I'd say, I want to be able to think outside of the box as an entrepreneur. I don't want to have to, have a certain formula that I have to follow in order to do a company. And I see that you're doing the same thing with the work that you're doing, so
thank you.
kudos to you. How can people learn more about you and your work?
Well, they could come to, our website, which is beminerals.com. They can also look me up personally at mineralgeek.com. I didn't make up that name. Other people did.
Uh-oh, somebody gave it to you? Somebody gave it to you. I actually will send I always send people to beminerals.com, and I say use Julie Ryan, all one word, at checkout, and you get 20% off
Yeah,
of whatever you order, and thank you for extending that to my community, that you're giving them a discount
it's totally
on
my
these
pleasure.
products. Yeah, yeah, alright. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and educate us on the whole mineral, uh, what's the word I'm looking quagmire, I'm gonna call it, and it's simplifying it for those of us who aren't schooled in all of these complex things. I love that you say that everything, including the minerals, are just energy, because they
Mhm.
are.
We just
Yeah.
are.
So, all right, everybody, we've given you a lot to think about. Sending you lots of love from Sweet Home, Alabama, mwah! And from Colorado too, where Caroline is. We will see you next time.
Thank you, Julie.
To enhance your spiritual journey, click on one of the videos below and remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your family and friends.